And I've got all these wing depressions and marks in all of this. I'll bolt that bottom section in first. I'm pleasantly surprised. Well, this is a happy moment. I'm filming with my newly returned Sony camera because it had problems, and I did continue on filming with my little point and shoot Canon, which is quite good, and it has been quite good, but it's so good to have my camera back, my video camera. So what we're filming at the moment is I have put the last coat of epoxy boat coat onto this panel here, which is the main piece for the V-berth, and I did it late the evening 2 nights ago, and the place got inundated with insects which all died after tiring from flying around the light. And I've got all these wing depressions and marks in all of this bit of ply. It's pretty annoying, to say the least. I've given a good scrub with the sponge trying to get rid of those marks, but they're not just marks, they're actually depressions, the little sods. So it's back to the sanding, get that back to all flat again and repaint it. In case it's not obvious, it is freaking hot, 36 degrees outside, a little bit cooler inside the boat. Whew. Just looking at this edge here where I've cut the mitre, it looks a bit average. I think I need to cut that again and get a much straighter cut on that. It's just a couple of spots where it's not exactly a continuous straight line. So I think I need to do that. That is much better. So there we are, turned over. That is more like it. That is a nice straight cut, as it should be. Now, just noting those voids there, I will fill them up with epoxy so there'll be no holes. It's unusual that they're there actually. They shouldn't be. So, onto painting the first coat of this piece, which forms part of that main bulkhead. So we'll quickly get a coat on that. You might think it's strange me wearing a long sleeved shirt here and on top of another shirt. It's because if the sweat drips onto this, as I've mentioned before, it just wrecks this epoxy. As strong as epoxy is, sweat off of my body just makes a mess of it. So I've discovered. Well everybody, just a bit of an update. I am filming with my little point and shoot at the moment. As chance would have it, and it actually hurts me to say this, but my lovely new Sony camera has been sent back to the repairers for the second time. I sent that back yesterday. I returned it back to the camera store yesterday to be sent back to the repairers. I only filmed the day before and had the same problems. Very, very disappointingly. Anyhow, moving right along, and this little camera is doing a good job of filling in the meantime. So look, I just thought I would get the camera, do a little pan around about what's going on at the moment. There is a lot going on, so how about I get the camera and show you that. As you can see here, there's another panel that has been epoxy painted. That was done this morning, so that's drying. It's actually touch dry now, and the plan is to turn that over at the end of today. We're only in the middle of the day at the moment, and give that a coat underneath, which will be the first coat underneath. So that what you're looking at is the second coat. Outside of the cockpit, I have the main part of the bed base sitting and waiting to be brought in. I've got some work to do at the V-berth framing before I can actually bring that down. Let's go and have a look at that. And on the way, as you can see, the main part of that bulkhead between the saloon and the V-berth is up. Let's go and have a look. These two parts for the V-berth are complete. What I did yesterday was I glued those two bits of, it's rubber, and the purpose of those is to provide a resting area. At the end of that panel, it's going to be touching those pieces of rubber, and that will actually be essentially a stop, so that if weight is put on the end of the base there, it's going to be touching those bits of rubber instead of rubbing on the hull. And that should be enough, because really there's not much weight down at that end. The other thing I need to do is provide a small bit of timber batten, which will be the height of this end. You can see the texture mark there. The same with that side. That will enable the end of this bed base to rest down on top of that as well. and that should finish up all of the necessary requirements in order to be able to finally fit the bed base, which I hope to be able to do probably in 2 days' time after I've painted that bit of batten. The other thing that I've got going is this timber here, which is the timber for the companionway. It's all machined up. I actually made these quite some time ago, but that's for the hatch and for the companionway entrance. These two here, these longer ones, will be the hatch slides, and then these three here will go, this one here on the bottom and these two on the sides of the companionway. So I'm going to get those painted up so that they can be installed, because another of my aims currently is to get the boat locked up, so that's just another phase done. So on to the sanding now, because we love to sand. So it's time to install these bulkheads, thank goodness. Not before time. Now, filming in here is very, very tricky. There's probably a bit of an echo also, because that bulkhead is installed immediately behind the camera. So what I'm going to be doing here is just going to be drilling some holes. I'll bolt that bottom section in first, and then I'll be doing a series of bolts across the top here also. In addition, it will have the FixTech 15 sealer and adhesive, and that will ensure that it's definitely not going to move. Whew, this is a bit tricky. Oh yeah, baby! Like a glove. This looks good, really good. Have a look. About staying behind or to keep in touch with you. There's a reason I keep to myself. It's harder to be true to someone else. Love in my hand. I'm pleasantly surprised. Okay, so I have dry fitted that piece and I've marked out where the holes will need to go. So here's the plan of attack. I have 5 holes, 1, 2, those black dots, 3, 4, 5, 2 drill bits to get those holes right. Put it back in place. There's the bolts. Yesterday I drove to Noosa and got a hold of the really good gear from the same mob that I have bought all of the epoxy paint system from, and mix some of that up. That will go into the mitre joint on both surfaces, and of course the FixTech 15 along the framing. That should hold that very, very securely. I'm quite pleased with how that's come up. I've fastened that now. It's got the bolts, the FixTech 15 and the epoxy glue in the joint. And that joint is pretty damn good. It's probably about 1 to 1.5 mil of space between, well, visual space anyway. Let's have a look from the other side. So there's just a wee bead of epoxy glue in the joint. I'll sand that off later, which is not a problem because all of this needs to be sanded to give it the polyurethane top coat at a later date. So having a little bit of glue surplus that I can sand back is absolutely fine because it's all got to be sanded back. But that looks quite good. I really am pleased with that. On to the next piece. So join me next episode, everybody, where I tackle the last of the pieces to the main bulkhead. And what a tricky piece that was. I hope you can join me.